Good morning to another talk show on Gigi's. And here, today we have a guest who is going to educate us on what is posh. But coming to that, it's a very broad spectrum thing, and we cannot concise it in half an hour. So this session is going to continue in 4 sessions. And the first part of this is to be done today. And the first session is about what is harassment. How many of you here in this room have never faced any harassment? Can you all think and say? Is there anyone who has never been harassed in their life? Be it emotional, mental, or physical. That means we all have gone through it. At some stage of our life, we have all gone through this, what is called as harassment. So we have a guest who is a posh trainer and a master trainer, and she will educate us on this further. Let's welcome Shipra Magon. Welcome, Shipra, to the show.
Thank you so much, Geetha, and this is one of the pertinent topics of today's era. Yes. And until we decode it properly, I don't think we will be able to go ahead with posh. So let's start this, get going, and audience, please make your notes if you want to.
Right. So, Shipra, there is so many kind of misconceptions, so many miscalculations about everything around, particularly pertaining to what is harassment. So as you are a master trainer in this field, I would like you to decode it in the simplest way. What is meant by harassment?
Right. Thank you so much. So harassment is unwanted behavior from the next person. So very easily or simply put, an unwanted behavior from the next person that results in disturbing you, and you could be emotionally disturbed, mentally disturbed, and physically disturbed. All three of them happening at the same time, or one of them. Now that is known as harassment.
Okay, coming to that, there are multiple types of harassment. Can you really explain what are the different forms of harassment?
Yes, Geetha, and before we go into what are the different forms of harassment, let us try and understand that what kind of behavior can qualify as a harassment.
Okay.
Like for example, I am the elder sibling and I may just, because out of some kind of a funny incident, or I just want to, disturb my younger sibling, I may poke some kind of a joke or fun which he or she may not like. He or she may feel bad about it, but my intentions were not, as such directed in that direction. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to humiliate my brother or sister, but he or she eventually felt that way. So let us try and understand certain basic points.
Okay.
Now, a harasser is that person who engages or indulges in this act of harassment unusually, repeatedly. So he or she has this tendency to engage in such kind of acts which cause other people embarrassment or humiliation or mental disturbance or emotional disturbance, or physically they feel insecure, and this person tends to do it again and again. So that's a very repetitive kind of behavior of this harasser. Secondly, the harasser may be wanting to do this intentionally. So it is the intention of the harasser to bring in that kind of discomfort to the next person. Now, when these things are together, then that will qualify as a harassment situation or an episode. Now we are ready to understand what are the various categories of harassment which we see around us. So the first will be benign harassment, the example which I gave you, an elder trying to boss the younger sibling. Similarly, seniors trying to boss or dominate the junior people, junior employees, once a while or maybe again and again. Now that's benign. The intention is not there, but the behavior is very repetitive.
Okay.
The second kind is something which most of us know is domestic violence. Now, domestic violence is because of the virtue of my sex. Now, let's say I'm the male sex. And since in India, we have paternalistic society, which is patriarchal in nature, which means that male are thought to have more power in a societal constitution, as low as a family also. Means they are able to take decisions. They are the one who decide a lot of things, how the family is going to move forward. They are the major decision makers. In such kind of a scenario, there may be chances where they think that I have all the entitlement, I have all the authority, I have all the right to engage in physical, which is very common, and emotional harassment of people who are staying in the very same family. Now, these could be female members, these could be children, or this could be anybody else. These could be domestic helpers also. So these all qualify as domestic violence, right? That's the second category. Now the third category. So we have understood the first category is benign. The second category, that is domestic violence. Now the third is, again going one step further, is gender harassment. So what is gender harassment? Again, in case of India, where males feel more entitled and more stronger, and they feel that they are more intelligent, then definitely certain disparities will happen in the family and outside the family also, at the workplace or otherwise in the society, where you will feel the male of the species feel that they are more powerful. And because of this, there will be a lot of stereotypes which you will find all around you. Now, what are stereotypes? A general notion which society follows. Now, these notions can be like, what should one be wearing? What should one be eating? What occupation should one be intending to do? What should one be wearing? How one should be behaving? For example, girls shouldn't, laugh loudly. Girls should be delicate. Boys should look muscular. Boys should be strong. Boys should not cry in public. Boys should not express their emotions. These kind of things are known as stereotypes. So because of this gender disparity, which is already existent in our society, we may have gender harassment. So we may have notions like, oh, you cannot do this because you are XYZ gender. Okay, you can do this because you are ABC gender. Now that is gender harassment. Now let's come to the last category. So let's take a small quick revision. First is the benign, where the intention is not as such, but anyways it is causing discomfort to the next person. The second one is basically domestic violence. We all understand it perfectly well. The third one is basically gender harassment. And the last one, I would like all of you to think, what do you think could be the last one?
Sexual harassment.
Yes, exactly correct. Now that is sexual harassment. And sexual harassment is everything to do with sex, anything which is related with sexual activities, which could be expressed verbally, in words, through gestures, through pictures, through body language, or through messages. That will qualify as sexual harassment.
Okay, great. So if there is an harassment being done, there is a harasser behind it. So can you decode the psyche of an harasser? Why this must be happening? Why he must or she must be indulging into it?
Yes, thank you, Geetha. I love the word that you used, he or she. Right. Because here it is very important for all of us to understand a harasser can have any sex. Right. That is, he can be a male, she, female, or others. That is transgender. They. So the gender, it is not gender specific. Anybody can try and cause harm, physical, mental, emotional, to the other person. And they can engage in humiliation or embarrassment. Now that is sorted. Now when we talk of psyche, there are a lot of parameters that go into it. I will take few of them. One is the sense of domination. One is a sense of entitlement. And where is that coming from? From the society. If the society tells you that you are the stronger sex, naturally you feel very entitled. One. Second, you may be a person who has certain kind of power and authority. So since you are in power and authority, like for example, the first example I gave, I am the elder amongst my siblings. So I feel powerful, right? Irrespective of the sex that I have. So I feel that I can boss around, or I can be bossy, or I can dominate people who are younger or junior to me. So power, authority, and society, which is basically telling you that you are the more powerful of the sex. Then opportunities. Sometimes you have certain opportunities and people think that nothing is going to come back to me and I can get away with it. So that sense of opportunity, which basically makes you act in any kind of free will, where there is no what we call in Hindi lagam or ankush, right? So there is no limiting your behavior as such. You are absolutely free to do in your free will whatever you want to do. And an important aspect here, another parameter is, could be a person who himself or herself has undergone episodes of harassment, particularly in their childhood, wherein they feel that they can continue with the same thing once they are in a position to do that. So that is the overall culmination of the psychology of a harasser as such.
So Shipra, what are the common traits or psychological factors that contribute to harassment in society, in families, or anywhere, in the workforce or anywhere?
Okay, so would you like me to talk about the victim or about the harasser? Because we just talked about
both.
Okay, so now let us complete with the harasser then, because we were talking about the harasser. So since we are talking about some mental and emotional, basically cognitive capacities of this person, if you are trying to decode, harassers are usually insecure people. So they feel secured around those people who they deem that they are weaker. And on whom they think they can exercise their power or authority. And by the virtue of it, they feel relaxed, comfortable, and probably it gives them pleasure. So you may be finding all of our listeners very repulsive, but deep down, unconsciously, subconsciously, even though I may know that what I'm doing is not correct, but somehow it makes me feel good. Somehow it makes me feel very powerful and good about myself. Okay, at least I can do this thing. Though when I come back to my senses, then I may be apologizing. Domestic violence is a classic case of this. You may find a person who's come back to his home, and this is a husband I'm talking about, and he's gone and slapped his wife thrice. Maybe he had a very bad day at office. Then after that, when he has, given vent to his feelings of frustration, and he's had his food, and now he's satisfied, he feels inside that I did not do a right thing. And he then apologizes also. But if he's going on and on and on, it's become repetitive, then he is a habitual case of a harasser. So that is something which should be taken into account and should be punished. So insecurity is one of the biggest underlying identification marks for any harasser. That is what I can tell you. Now let us cross the line to the victim side. Now you will see the thread is the same. The victims may also be feeling insecure somewhere or the other. Because after being victimized, if you are able to speak about it to 10 people, or let's say not 10 people, to 1 people, or let's say you can confront your harasser immediately on your own terms, that means you are a secured person. Something wrong has happened to you and you immediately raised your voice and you are assertive. Because see, something wrong can happen to anybody at any point of time. But are you able to combat it? Are you able to talk about it? Are you able to find some solutions about it? That's an assertive person. But 90% of the time, particularly in an Indian mindset, we find the victims do not speak. We find that they keep things to themselves. Now, surprising part is this, we may find many people, let me take another example of domestic violence. They may be confident people, they may be confident at their workplace, they may look around very cheerful, but deep down there are a lot of things that they are facing. And a lot of examples, a lot of things will be said that I am sacrificing, or I am basically trying to adjust. Now, this is not adjustment or trying to be compatible or you being compliant. It is you feeling insecure somewhere. You here means victim, feeling insecure somewhere that if I break through this association or if I raise my voice, this is the risk that I'm going to face. And probably this is a consequence I'm going to face. You don't want to confront that consequence. Since you don't want to confront a consequence, that is your insecurity.
Okay.
So the thread is the same. The thread is the same.
That means both the harasser and the victim, to some extent, are insecure people who are not confident enough to talk it out. Rather, they have another way of venting out. One is the giver and the other is the receiver of it.
Correct. Correct.
Yes. So coming to that, Shipra, whether harassments are predominantly targeted on specific gender or there is any pattern or biases that is associated with this kind of harassments?
That's a very important question, Geetha. That having said that the harasser can be of any sex, right? But this is a fact that gender harassment is very rampant. If you remember, I told you about the 4 different kind of categories of harassment. The first one was benign. The second one was specifically related with domestic violence. And when we talk of domestic violence, again, the gender harassment part comes here. And the third definitely is gender harassment. And sexual harassment, when we talk about sexual harassment and we'll take it further, we'll find that most of the time the sexual harassment is happening with females, that the victims are females.
Okay.
So this is an important question. Now let us decode this aspect once again. So there is a general stereotype, particularly in the Indian society. But having said that, I would like to inform our very learned, I would say, viewers who are watching us and listening to us, that globally, you will be amazed that the number of sexual harassment cases, the percentages is very high. Even the so-called development countries, like for example, Germany, the US of A, or even China or Japan. So what is it which is basically leading to these kind of, I would say, behavior from the other part? The one part is this, that the society believes, and it is very deep rooted, that the male sex is more powerful. And that they are supposed to enjoy. In fact, there are certain, I would say, belief systems which they have written in their books that the males are basically the superior of all the species in human beings, and they're supposed to enjoy life. And the women or the female species are supposed to add on to their enjoyment and cater to it. So that is one. Paternalistic, or what I said, patriarchal. Now, paternalistic, patriarchal mindset is this, that this is the property which my father has, and when he passes away, I am the heir. It's going to come to me. I am the one who's going to inherit it. Now, as per the Hindu laws, there has been changes which have come in the last decade. So earlier, many people would be knowing this, that if you were the daughter of your father, you were not given any stake into his property. You could inherit it. But now certain changes have started coming. Now that is paternalistic view, patriarchal. Another common one which everybody will understand, maybe they thought that this was too techno-legal, is when we call out our names, except for few societies in Kerala, and particularly in the North Indian side where it is matriarchal, we carry the surnames of our father. So whenever you get married, a female gets married, she drops her, earlier name, her father's name, and then she takes on her husband's name or her in-law's name. So that is another example of it, right? Now, if you would like to stem it out, how far will you go? Now, this is the same thing which is coming in, bringing in a lot of disparities. For example, the pink versus the blue color. So small child is born. So Baba, so we are going to take the blue colored toys or blue colored clothes. So baby, so let us take pink colored toys, and those toys which are more feminine nature, the dolls, the kitchen sets, the house. And if it is a baby boy, then the guns and those kind of things. So that is the mindset, and that is what is primarily leading to this kind of harassment.
So, Shipra, you're coming to say that society, family, both play a role in the conditioning of the mindset of a child. From early childhood, we are training that person or the child to be gender specific and to think on those parameters. So it is not just the society, but family, parents, everyone to be blamed in this game. Yes?
Exactly, and I love the choice of word you used, gender, because sex is how I was born. I was born a female, and Geetha was born as a female. Our viewers must have been born as male, female, or others. But gender is that specific roles that we've attached pertaining to that sex. So if you are female, you behave like this, you eat like this, you walk like this, you talk like this, you wear like this, and in fact, you go for these occupations.
Okay. Now, can you give me a clear definition, that is a clear demarcation of what is sexual harassment, differentiating it from any other forms of harassments?
Correct. So when we say sexual harassment, the word itself, sexual, is the demarcation. Because harassment, we all have understood. If somebody does something to me verbally, by speaking, by showing me a pic, by texting me, or physically by engaging in certain activities, whatever it has, if it has disturbed me, if it I felt bad about it, I felt embarrassed or humiliated, that's harassment. I just need to add the word sexual, which means anything which is pertaining to intimacy, anything which is pertaining to sex or sex associated things, whether explicit or implicit. Explicit is very clearly, very obviously, very conspicuously, I understand it. For example, oh, mal. Now that is explicit.
Okay.
But implicit is I'm simply smiling and looking at you, and I tend to do this every single day with you.
Okay.
With that kind of grin. So that is implicit. Non-veg jokes, hidden meanings are there, right? You could decode, you could have two different meanings out of it, right? Now that is implicit. That's a hidden agenda out there.
Okay.
So that is also sexual harassment.
Okay. So Shipra, we are correct with what is harassment, what are the types of harassment, what is pertaining to sexual harassment, what are the modes that you should be looking out for. Now, what are the various types of sexual harassment?
Correct, Geetha. As we had understood the 4 types of harassment, the last one was sexual harassment. Now we need to understand what are the different types of sexual harassment. I'm sure our audience is now into this and they would be very curious to know about this. So very first one, let me take you and start this with gender harassment.
Okay.
So gender harassment, you all have understood, and you may be thinking, how does gender harassment qualify as sexual harassment? So let me give you examples. Oh my God, that shirt, that blouse is too fitting on you, it looks too good. And girls should be not wearing pants because I get to see a lot of things. Now, such kind of comments, girls should not be wearing pants, your blouse is tight. You're basically commenting on the kind of clothes which a female species or female sex of the human species wears. You're clearly demarcating it. Now, imagine a man wearing pants. Would you say this kind of a comment? No. So that is a case of gender harassment. On the basis of sexual, I would say sexual implications, but bringing out the difference on the same cloth which both of them are wearing, and you are trying to, bring out different meanings out of it. Now that is a classic example of gender harassment.
Right? Shipra, there are conditions now because we are a young workforce. The country India is having the youngest workforce today. Correct. Most of the age group that we have in the population is in the age group of 20 to 35. So that group makes the workforce of India. And the generation today is not much aware of the implications that this kind of act of theirs can destroy their careers or their life altogether. Because of the invasion of social media and other platforms that are there, many of them, because when they are friends, they have some kind of content with them that they had shared during their friendship or some point of time, when they were good in relationship with each other, they might have got some content with them. Are there chances, Shipra, that this content can be used later against them to destroy them?
Be cautious, and this is where I tell people, you can party, you can move together, you can do haha, you can do hi bro, and those kind of things, but refrain from sticking with each other, in the sense that do not try each other too often like this.
Okay.
Because this is what I believe, Geetha, maybe you must be wanting to point out, because even like, touching people like this here and there, patting at the back, or,
Right.
touching the vulnerable areas, the lower back. I mean, that could be good amongst friends, but you never know, somebody may feel it very demeaning, very bad about it. And as you said that they were okay with it earlier, and now they are not okay with it, right? So things do change. So please be very cautious about this, because this would qualify as that you were trying to seduce the next person, you're trying to tempt the next person, wherein the next person was not interested.
Okay. Can
Right?
it happen the other way around as well? Can a lady do it to a man?
Yes, of course. As I've clearly said, that anybody can be a harasser. Similarly, any could be a sexual harasser. And to understand that, let's take the other three categories also of sexual harassment. The first is gender harassment. The second is definitely, we discussed, the seductive behavior. So anybody can try to seduce anybody. A female can try to seduce a male can try to seduce a female. Both will qualify as sexual harassment.
Okay.
Now let's come to the third one. The third is sexual bribery.
Okay.
Now this is something which will happen particularly in workplace.
Okay.
For example, why I'm saying workplaces, I am asking certain favors from you sexually, and on the lieu of it, I say, okay, so because I'm in a position of power or authority, I will promote you, or I'll appreciate you financially, or I'll increase your incentives, or maybe I'll get you transferred to the right kind of a place where you want to be, or you will get the plum postings. Now that is bribery, giving some kind of lalach. Ye le lo, and badle mein you give me this. Right? Now, probably the next person is not interested in getting into that kind of sexual relationship, but the person thinks, okay, if I get this much, then okay, I don't want to do it, but let me go ahead with it. And just the opposite of it, the fourth one is sexual coercion.
Okay.
The coercion, as the word you must be understanding, is force. So it is like threatening.
Okay.
Now, if you don't oblige me sexually, right, which could be anything, it could be hugging or kiss, or maybe beyond that, then I'm going to destroy your career. Then I'm going to demote you. Then I'm going to make sure I write, bad score for you, or throw you to a posting which is something which you wouldn't like to have. Now that is threatening. So again, a person may think, oh, this job is too important to me. So, okay, I don't want it, but let me comply with it.
Okay.
So again, when we talk of these two things, again, if you would understand, you can be a female also. You could be a female boss also, who is trying to, work her way out with her junior male employee, and who may not be very happy with doing with it, complying with it, but has no other choice.
Okay.
And the last one, which we all understand, is sexual imposition. So sexual imposition is more physical in nature. The physical nature is being touching here and there, groping, kissing, hugging, and of course, rape and such kind of activities.
Okay.
It is like, and I'm closing this with this, that you are driving your scooter wearing a helmet, because not that you think that you are not a good driver, but because there are foolish people who are moving around who don't know how to drive, and they will come and hit you. So you want to secure yourself. Not that is how it is.
So it was a wonderful talk show, Shipra, and I think the audience and the viewers who are listening this are really going to benefit out of it, and especially the young workforce that is out there should really be aware of certain things in life so that they have a secure and beautiful life ahead. And this was part 1 of that session. The next sessions will be soon coming up. Thank you, Shipra, for being here with us.
Thank you, Geetha. Namaskar, Geetha. Namaskar, all our viewers. Thank you.